tried again, saying, fucking Shaggy defense wasn't me. And again, the court, like, no new defense. His defense is only like, it wasn't me. I didn't mess with, like, I didn't do any of it. And the court was again like, fuck off. Like, no, stay in jail.
I'm laughing because that's foolish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that story. But before I end this topic, I want to share a few more things.
Okay.
I had heard this next thing I'm going to say a little bit, but I had to Google to get clarification. And then when I Googled it, it actually was like, oh, this went away. But then I found articles where people interviewed parents, and this is still a thing.
Okay, what is it?
So in Utah, this fucking year, 2020, girls, and I'm talking elementary school age, girls are being told they can't and shouldn't say no to a boy if he asks them to dance at the school dance. This is how fucking people like Steve feel justified. And I'm not saying that Steve, like, clearly he might have some mental issues, like, so, but
sure,
if you tell girls you can't say no to a boy who asks you to dance, you're just like, this is how people like Steve are created.
You're telling boys that
women can't say no to you.
It's not okay for women to say no to that, and that you can ask anyone and get what you want.
Right.
Little boys.
Yeah.
Who don't need to be told that.
Yes. And so I heard this was a thing, but then when you Google it at first, it's all these articles about like Utah schools have gotten rid of this rule. But then there's moms who are like, no, my daughter just went to a school dance fucking this year in 2020. And the principal himself heard her 11-year-old daughter tell a boy no, pulled her aside and was like, you have to dance with him. Like, you can't say no. Like, not okay.
Yeah, no, this person does not have to put their hands on me, and I do not have to spend 3 minutes with them.
Right. And it teaches both girls and boys a very horrible thing.
Oh, absolutely. At a very young age.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, principal, whatever the fuck your name is. I'm sorry that you were rejected. You don't get to push that on kids.
No. It's not like, no girl dance with me, so I'm going to make sure all the guys have someone to dance with. No.
No. It doesn't, like, no.
We don't want to dance with you ever.
Yeah.
We want to talk about Colts, baby. That's all we want to do.
So I'm going to talk about 2 more things. So this leads me to a fucking hero, and I want to touch on her because it doesn't really fit in this, but I want to, because it's not rejection killings totally, but there is a school nurse. Her name is Dawn Wilcox, and she's from Plano, Texas. And so I randomly came across her name when I was doing this research. So it's basically Dawn kept hearing all these different stories and seeing things on the media of women being killed by, and not just for rejection, but just women in general being killed by lovers, by neighbors, by strangers, by their dad, like just women being killed.
It's all too common. So
she's kind of made it her quote unquote part-time job. She basically scours the internet for dozens of hours every week. And because women being killed isn't something like tracked on its own.
Yeah.
So she scours the internet, and she is creating this entire database of women killed by men.
What?
And I looked at it, and it was kind of hard because it's like you go to this website. She calls it Women Count USA. So I just Googled Women Count USA. And it brings you to this thing, and it's separated by years. And literally you click on it, and it brings up an Excel spreadsheet. And she's got the victim, their picture, who killed them, why they were killed. And it's a database she's creating of women killed by men. And it's amazing. Dawn is a fucking hero.
Slow applaud for Donna.
Because Dawn, not Donna, but...
Oh, Dawn. I'm sorry, Dawn. I'm very happy for you.
We have to track this stuff.
Yeah.
Because if we don't track it, we don't know where the problem is.
Yeah.
So she's made a catalog, essentially, of, women we have lost to gender violence. She's their name, ages, their hometown, the pictures, and information about their killers, if available. Her list includes, and I'm going to name a few, Nicole Duxon, a 34-year-old from Columbus, Ohio, who was stabbed to death along with her 4-year-old daughter, both murdered by her ex-boyfriend.
Oh, no.
19-year-old college student Ruth George, who ignored a man's catcalls and then was followed and gunned down.
Mm-hmm.
And like we said in the very beginning, it was not hard at all to find a case for this theme. If you literally Google rejection killings, women who said no, women killed for saying no, article after article, name after name after name. And it's not just an issue of like these psychos who kill. It's more than that, right? Like we're not all murdered for saying no. But so to end, I want to read some tweets. So there was this thing that was posted, and it was like, hey, tell me what happened to you when you rejected a man if they acted poorly. So I want to read a couple, and then I'll say a personal one, and then if you have one, you can share.
Okay.
So I'm going to read a few tweets from women that I found. And these are all quotes. And it was from, maybe I didn't name this source. It was from a BuzzFeed thing.
Okay.
But they're all like actual tweets. Like you can find them on Twitter.
They were just compiled.
Yeah. So one girl says, I turned down a guy at a party in college by mentioning my boyfriend was in the next room. The next weekend, my boyfriend was away. We're at another party. And this dude followed me into a bathroom, blocked the door, and said, where's your boyfriend now, bitch? A guy in high school who I rejected told me I was at the top of his list for people he'd kill if he shot up the school. And this is stuff like you have to take serious. Like it's
Oh, yeah.
In my early 20s, a guy at a club asked me to dance. I politely said no thanks, and he told me that he should really break a bottle over my head. I declined to give my number to a man who pulled up alongside me in his car. I was walking, and he proceeded to drive alongside me for the next 4 blocks, yelling obscenities and threats at me. And this next one has it has a C word. It's got some foul language, but I want to read it for what it is.
Yeah.
Years ago on OkCupid, a guy started chatting with me, and I replied a little, but I got distracted by real life, and I didn't return to the site until the next day when I saw he sent a message calling me a fucking cunt for ignoring him when he was just trying to be nice.
Oh my
Because she took a day to respond.
Oh my God. That one is all too familiar.
Yeah, and there's a whole Tumblr section called When Women Refuse, and you can find more stuff like this, and it's horrifying.
Yeah.
It's not just that like we're not all going to get killed for rejecting a man, but I've been called a bitch. I've been called names just for being like, no thanks, not interested. Or even being like, sorry, I have a boyfriend, or I'm not interested in dating. Like I've been called name. Like it's.
Yeah. And I think about like when I was using apps for like dating apps, like if you don't respond for a day or you don't even have to respond. That's the thing. Like, and I'd be called like, okay, you stuck up bitch. Like, you fucking think you're better than me? I'm like, what? I'm not responding to you. Like, why would you say that?
Well, and I've had guys like where they respond and then I take some time and they're like, oh, you're fucking ugly anyways. Like,
oh yeah.
Okay.
You're like, cool, great.
Thanks. Like they just have to say something like to call you a piece of shit or like, yeah.
Ugh.
So it's not just being killed. We have to like, we get treated like shit for being like, no thanks. I recently have had a neighbor who's honestly been kind of stalkerish.
Yeah. A weirdo.
No, like not even kind of like definitely stalkerish. Like I got home from work one day and so he's lives in my apartment complex. It makes it hard, but he kept coming out when I was like taking the trash out and all this and kept talking to me. And then one day he like took my phone and put his number in it. And then like 2 weeks ago, I get home from work and his apartment is on the other side of the complex.
Okay, yeah.
So if he's standing outside on the phone, you think he'd be on the other side of the complex.
Sure.
I get home from work and he is standing outside my apartment on the phone, and I say on the phone in air quotes because as I approach, he's not, his mouth isn't moving. He's holding his phone up to his ear.
I would have like driven around the block again. Like, okay, I can't park right now.
Yeah, and as I walk up, he, without moving his mouth, he puts his phone in his pocket. And I'm like, you weren't even on the fucking phone. And then I was literally like, I'm in a hurry. And I walked up the stairs without doing anything.
Good.
And then I go inside and I change. And then I go to walk my dog. And I walk Leo across the street. And we had been walking for already like 30 minutes because I normally do 3 laps around. Yeah. And I was going to start my 3rd lap. Who do I run into? The same neighbor. And he's like, oh, I didn't know you were over here. Bullshit. Oh, it's funny because you can see over here from your apartment.
Yeah.
Then I get back and then I go check the mail. Who shows up at the mailbox? Like 3 times in one night. And then I joked at work the other day and I was like, oh, if I get murdered, it was him. But that's like only scary. A 75% joke. Also, 25% of me is like, he could be pissed. Like, you never know. He could be pissed and I could get home one day and he could just like shoot me. Like, you never fucking know. It's terrifying.
But that's a scary thing when you're like, don't say no to men or watch out when you say no. Like, who's going to murder you? This guy? Or, I mean.
Right. And he could be totally harmless. Yeah. He could be a guy who's fine with rejection. He also could not be. Like, we have no idea.
You know what's funny, though, is the rejection thing isn't only for dating. Like, it's for having opposing views. So, for example.
Oh, wait, can I throw one more thing in?
Yes, absolutely.
So I finally was like, okay, I have to lie to this guy. So last time I saw him, I was like, hey, I'm dating my ex again. Like, it's not a good idea that we like, I can't talk to you. Like, please leave me alone. Like, I'm dating someone.
How do you respond?
He said, oh, I forgot about you already.
Oh, that's rich. That's rich.
But it was like he had to throw something. And I'm like, oh, that's funny because you were like outside my apartment yesterday. And I haven't seen him since, thank God. But I'm like, okay.
Funny how you're everywhere. So I say that.
Or forgot about you. I was like, okay.
Good. Forget about me even more.
But I shouldn't have to lie. But I was like, I have to lie and tell him I'm dating someone to get him to leave me alone. Sorry, go ahead.
So when you have opposing views. So for example, I brought up something interesting on Facebook. A friend had posted something. I don't even remember what it was about. But I posted something about women running, getting attacked and murdered. It's very uncommon. Very, very uncommon. In fact, it's rare. However, it does happen. The canal killer in Phoenix, Mollie Tibbets I just talked about, like it does happen.
Yeah.
This guy is like, that doesn't happen. That's totally unfair that you say things like this because real victims out there would have an issue with you just making up stories about people. And it made me...
What?
Yeah, it made me think too, like when you have opposing views on the internet with men, like they're the quickest to be like, hey, you ugly, like hoe bag, like, you know, stop spreading lies that makes your female people look bad, like stuff like that. I get that all the time on social media. It wasn't even a date. I'm like, okay, just because like you don't agree with something doesn't give you the right to be like, you're ugly, you're a slut. Like, what? What? Excuse me?
Okay, and I get it is rare for women to be killed first. Like, we can find a bunch of examples, but they're still not a big part of the population. Yeah. But it's still enough that there's that little bit of fear each time.
Well, because we know that 9 out of 10 perpetrators are men.
Yeah.
And we know that men are usually the ones killing women. Yeah. Like, that still is out there.
Yeah.
There's a reason I carry pepper spray when I run.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I get pepper spray to walk my dog because I've run into creepers. Like,
yeah, it's happened to me before where people have groped me on a public bus. People have stopped me when I'm running. People have, like, even those small things, they're like, well, that's not murder. I don't want to be touched
when I was
by someone I don't know.
Yeah.
Ever again.
And it's been going on forever. I remember being in fucking middle school and being on the bus with my friends. And this guy kept messing with my friend. And, like, he obviously had a crush on her and stuff. Yeah. And she was like, leave me alone. I don't like you. And he called her a cunt. And we were in middle school.
Oh, my God.
And I will never forget this. We, like, went to her house after school and she told her mom. And her mom called that boy's mom and fucking lied. And I was like, yes. Like, looking back now, I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
good job, mama.
And oh, she went like the most mama bear I've ever seen a mom go.
Oh, I hope I'm that way. I hope I'm that way if my boys mess up. I hope I'm that way if my girls mess up. I hope I'm that, you know, in all situations, whether they're the good people or the bad people.
I also hate to, and I want to say this because I, like, recently had a conversation with another friend and we were talking about how men and women are like bashing Taylor Swift's song The Man.
Oh, really?
Saying she's like, oh, she hates men. No, she's just pointing out that, like, it's harder for a woman to be successful. Like, you have to work twice as hard. So, like, we're having this conversation, right? And I can already imagine there's people, I don't think it's like you guys who are listening, but like, let's say someone else heard this and, like, they would be like, oh, Sarah and Caitlin hate all men. No, we fucking, but you know what I mean? Like, those are the kind of, like, it's, we just can't fucking win.
I married a man. I cannot hate them that much.
Yeah, I'm dating a man.
Yes.
Well, I've been on 2 dates, but.
Well, she's 2 dates in.
Yeah. But I mean, like, we don't hate all men.
No.
And like Sarah said, take it up with those other asshole men. Don't take it up with us. Put that on a shirt. Chelsea.
Don't take it up with us.
Chelsea.
Change their ways, not ours.
Yes.
We're doing the same thing always.
We are heated. We are on fire.
Where do we go from here? Do you have a joke?
I do have a joke.
Okay.
How do you make the number 1 disappear? Add a G to it, and it's gone.
Oh. That took me a second.
Thank you.
So you know that I suck at golf. I don't know if you know that. But I was out on the golf course the other day, and I realized it takes a lot of balls to golf the way I do.
Shut the fuck up. That was good. Shut the front door.
Yeah, no. Thanks, guys.
My legs are really smooth.
Oh, mine too. Everyone, touch your leg right now. Tell us how smooth it is. We hope you guys liked that episode. Don't forget to check out Crackers and Milk to check out our new collaboration t-shirt, the Stop Killing Women with Flowers on it. We would love for you to go support her and get it.
Then you'll match us.
Yeah, you'll match us.
Send us your pictures. Tag Luminol pod.
Tag Luminol Maxi Pads at Luminol Maxi Pads.
Please do. Please hashtag Luminol Maxi Pads.
If someone makes a tag that's Luminol Maxi Pads, I will include it in every post we ever do till I die.
Yes.
Yeah. So Crackers and Milk on Instagram. Check out Nameless Does.